Some people still didn't believe it. So the Club of Rome was formed secretly by Dr. Aurelio Pacelli in Rome, Italy. He got together a group of elite men and scientists, and they did another study and came up with exactly the same answers. They then commissioned a group of people in the United States at MIT. They put together a team to establish a computer model to determine what can be done to stop this, what can be done to ensure that it doesn't happen again, what can be done to ensure that the human race survives. And the answer is some of the things that I'm going to show you. All of this is in my book. It's thoroughly documented. It's going to really upset some of you, but it's true. The first indication publicly was this book written by Dr. Paul R. Ehrlich. Now, y'all wonder why is Dr. Paul Ehrlich writing these books? It's because his wife, ladies and gentlemen, is a member of the Club of Rome. Next slide. This was copyrighted first in 1968. It was the first indication of the results of the secret studies. This was published by Paul Ehrlich. Next. It says here, probably accurate to say that if all the food produced in the world today were in some sense equally distributed, that everyone would have an adequate diet. Does that mean that those who claim that there is no population problem, only a problem of distribution, are correct? Absolutely not. Population pressures are a product of animals as they exist, not as they might be. If lions ate grass instead of antelopes, the plains of Africa could support many more of them before the plains would be overpopulated. Similarly, the carrying capacity of Earth for saints is considerably higher than the carrying capacity for Homo sapiens. In theory, the problem of human overpopulation could be solved by a reduction in population size or by a change towards more saintly behavior. The current situation of global overpopulation is so serious, and the built-in potential for further population increase is so great, that the only sensible strategy for humanity today is to end population growth and start a population decline as rapidly as is humanly possible, simultaneously striving to achieve a more equitable distribution of the food and other goods of this planet. Limiting births and increasing social justice are not alternative strategies to preserving society. They are, ladies and gentlemen, necessary complements. Next slide. Now, here is the key. In this book, Paul Ehrlich told us that they had already decided on the solution because they had tried zero population growth and we didn't buy it. We didn't buy it. It worked in some small areas, but it didn't work in many, and it certainly didn't work worldwide. This paragraph tells you everything that you ever need to know about what is happening today and will answer a lot of your questions. Basically, then, there are only two kinds of solutions to the population problem. One is a birth rate solution, in which we find ways to lower the birth rate. Didn't work. Didn't work. The other is a death rate solution, in which ways to raise the death rate, war. You asked me about the Middle East. You asked me about what happened to Iran. You asked me about El Salvador. You asked me about Nicaragua. You asked me what's going to happen in the future. This paragraph tells you what's going to happen. Famine, pestilence, find us. They have just shut off the water to all the farmers in the San Joaquin Valley. They produce 50% of all the vegetables that are consumed in this country. Do you believe that's an accident after reading this? Large corporations and banks have been forcing the small farmer out of existence and buying up land which sits fallow. Do you think that's an accident? We have sold all of our grain to the Soviet Union. Do you think that's an accident? There's not 20 days supply of grain in this country if we needed it in an emergency. Now listen to this. The problem could have been avoided by population control, in which mankind consciously adjusted the birth rate so that a death rate solution did not have to occur. He's telling us, ladies and gentlemen, that they have already decided upon it and that it is in effect. Next. The next warning was the limits to growth. This was published by the Club of Rome. Next. The conclusions are, and this is only what they've revealed to the public, what they told to the power elite of the world is an entirely different story and is much more radical. If the present growth trends in world population, industrialization, pollution, food production, and resource depletion continue unchanged, the limits to growth on this planet will be reached sometime within the next 100 years. The most probable result will be a rather sudden and uncontrollable decline in both population and industrial capacity. And what they don't say here that they said in the secret report is that the masses of people in the world will result to the overthrow of their government and anarchy will reign as they try to feed themselves and their families and find jobs. It is possible to alter these growth trends and to establish a condition of ecological and economic stability that is sustainable far into the future. The state of global equilibrium could be designed so that the basic material needs of each person on Earth are satisfied and each person has an equal opportunity to realize his individual human potential. Who would suffer the most under such a plan? Not the rich, ladies and gentlemen. They are in control. It's going to be us. Americans consume most of the raw materials in the world. 50% of the energy supply is consumed in this country. We pollute the earth more than any other nation. It is us who are going to have to go back and live like our ancestors did, and they're going to make us if we don't learn how to do it on our own. I'd rather be a volunteer than a slave. I don't know about you. If the world's people decide to strive for the second outcome rather than the first, the sooner they begin working to attain it, the greater will be their chances of success. And down in the last paragraph, something really important. These conclusions are so far-reaching and raise so many questions for further study that we are quite frankly overwhelmed by the enormity of the job that must be done. We hope that this book will serve to interest other people in many fields of study and in many countries of the world to raise the space and time horizons of their concerns and to join us in an understanding and preparing for a period, and listen to this because they're not kidding, it's coming very soon, for a period of great transition, the transition from global to global equilibrium. Henry Kissinger said when asked what he foresaw for the coming decade, he said, everything will be different. There will be a new world order. Many will suffer. For those who survive, the world will be better. And the last thing he said, we will have the world we have always wanted. Now, if you know anything about Henry Kissinger, he never wastes words, and he knows what's going on. Next. This is the regionalized and adaptive model of the global world system from the computer model at MIT, designed for the Strategy for Survival project of the Club of Rome. Patriots in this country have been running around calling the Club of Rome a subversive organization. They've been trying to ensure our survival. They're a study group, a think tank. That's all they are. They don't make the decisions. Next. We don't have time to go through all of this, but it's in my book. That chapter is going to be the most interesting chapter that you're going to read in my book. And everything that I say in there and here is thoroughly documented. Next. And next. And next. These are the New World regions. There's already a new constitution has been made for the United States of America. It's called the New States Constitution. It was paid for by your tax dollars over a 10-year period. It was developed by the Center for Democratic Studies in Santa Barbara, California, and it cost $25 million. The entire Constitution is also in my book. Next. You could see by there Region 1 was the combination of the United States and Canada, and that's the real reason for the lowering of the trade restrictions between the United States and Canada. We are fixing to be merged. Next. And next. There are 10 regions in the New World Order, and you are looking at them now. Next. Next. What's one of the answers? Alternative 3. I also saw documentation, and I've already shown you documentation on slides, that there may have been somebody in the moon in 1958, and I can tell you right now, there is a base on the moon. We are attempting to colonize space because if their attempts to control our greed and our wastefulness and our destruction of this earth do not work, the only hope for the survival of the human race is colonization of other planets. Next. This is verification. I can't tell you who wrote this letter, but it is a letter that was delivered into our hands well, I can't tell you that, but this confirms that as far back as 1962, working for the Jet Propulsion Labs in Pasadena, she was working on photography taken of the moon and Mars from objects that went there. I can tell you that the first landing on Mars of a probe occurred on May the 22nd, 1962, sent back photographs and verified the existence of an atmosphere that could support life. This woman was married to a man. She says in this letter, his function was to design domed modular living facilities, next slide please, for colonies of Earth scientists to be stationed on the moon and then Mars. It was called Project Adam and Eve. We didn't get this letter, ladies and gentlemen, until August of 1989. I had already revealed the presence of a colony on the moon and Mars on July the 2nd, 1989. Okay, next. 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 Report from Iron Mountain on the possibility and desirability of peace. Next. This is really important. Though not yet expressly put forth as the development of a long-range sequence of space research projects with largely unattainable goals, this kind of program offers several advantages lacking in the social welfare model. First, it is unlikely to phase itself out regardless of the predictable surprises science has in store for us. The universe is too big. In the event some individual project unexpectedly succeeds, there would be no dearth of substitute problems. For example, if colonization of the moon proceeds on schedule, it could then become necessary to establish a beachhead on Mars or Jupiter and so on. Next. This is a book called Exploring Space with a Camera, published by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Next. In which you see tracks on the surface of the moon. Now I want you to notice where these tracks go. Start way up here. They go down into this valley, up over this hill, down in this valley, up over this hill, down in this crater, up over this hill, and down here. And NASA says it's rocks rolling downhill. Next. Next. Here's another one. Look at this. It goes way down in this crater, up here, over here, down in this little